Nobody is Watching You by Omar Cuellar. Tom had been working for Beacon Consulting Group, a consulting firm in Boston, Massachusetts, for 2 years. He didn't like his job, and he knew he would end up quitting it soon, just like always. He had never lasted more than 2 years at any job. Tom was 28 and had noticed that many people in his generation didn't stay long in their jobs either. In fact, he had read articles saying that even younger people often didn't want to work for a company at all. They preferred to make money on their own. Tom often heard employers, especially boomers, constantly complaining about the attitude and performance of younger workers. Tom was distracted, staring at the blue can of Red Bull on his desk next to his computer. It was already the 4th can he had drunk that day. He used to take small sips to savor the drink for as long as possible. When he picked up the can and realized it was nearly empty, a wave of anxiety hit him. He didn't want that cold, fizzy apple flavor to stop sliding down his throat. He brought the can to his lips again, as slowly as he could, tilted it, and held the bubbling liquid on his palate for a moment. Then he felt the cold, carbonated stream travel down his throat. Ah, what a delight. He felt frantic, full of energy, wanting to jump up, run around the waiting area of the office, then sprint back to his seat, leaping high as he passed through the entrance door and brushing the top of the frame with the fingers of his right hand. He also began imagining the office completely empty and silent. Rows and rows of computers and desks with no one using them. Then he could run aimlessly through the corridors, turning at every corner that appeared, his gray suit jacket and red tie flapping wildly, before diving into one of the many elevators. Once inside, he would press every single button, but the doors wouldn't close. From the elevator walls, liters and liters of Red Bull would start gushing out, splashing him, and he would feel even happier and more euphoric. Cascades and waves of Red Bull would begin flooding the entire office floor, and he would let himself get soaked and carried away by the fizzy waters, as if sliding down a water park chute. While letting the current drag him around different parts of the office, he would close his eyes, smile wide, and flap both arms as if he were a bird. He had never felt so much pleasure. Tom took one last sip from the Red Bull can on his desk. No more Red Bull, he thought, and stood up from his chair. He walked over to one of the large windows. The consulting firm occupied the 34th floor, and from that height you could admire a large part of Boston. It was drizzling lightly outside, and night would fall soon. There were 15 minutes left until the end of the workday. Tom returned to his seat. He couldn't concentrate and kept glancing at the time on his computer. Almost there, he thought. After those 15 minutes, his coworkers began getting ready to leave. Some rushed out as fast as possible. You could tell from their faces that, if social conventions didn't exist, they would have bolted from the building without saying goodbye or speaking to anyone who got between them, the exit door, and the elevator. Others took their time leaving. These people looked so exhausted that it seemed they barely had the energy to go home. "I'm so tired that I can't even be bothered to go home. That's why sometimes I stay longer in the office," a coworker had confessed to Tom months earlier. Then there were the social coworkers, those strange individuals whom, for some reason, the workday hadn't drained at all. On the contrary, when it was time to leave, all they seemed to want was to chat with someone, even about irrelevant things or work matters. They probably realized themselves that these were just excuses to interact. Everyone must have noticed, or at least that's what Tom thought. In his 2 years there, Tom had been all 3 types of worker at the end of the day. A couple of times he had left in a hurry without saying goodbye to anyone. Many times he felt so drained that all he wanted was to sit in front of his computer, listen to music through his headphones, and drink another Red Bull. Other times he felt such a strong urge to talk to his coworkers that he was the one preventing them from going home. Tom kept checking the time on his computer. Almost there, he thought again. He glanced around. There were still 5 people in the office, 2 at their computers and 3 talking and laughing about who knows what. Tom couldn't hear their conversation. The office was huge, a huge office, In the 2 years he had worked there, Tom had never bothered to count the number of rows or desks. Probably more than 80 workers. No private offices or cubicles. Everyone was equal. Same computers, same chairs, same desks. For the first time in 2 years, Tom realized he was just one more ant in a giant anthill. But that fact didn't bother him, because his mind was focused on something far more important. Almost, he thought again. Now there was only one man, around 30 years old, still working at his computer. Tom didn't know him and had never spoken to him. But judging by his appearance and the way he typed, Tom concluded the man probably didn't have a family waiting for him at home. Why do I keep judging people? He scolded himself. Tom began to lose patience. The man showed no sign of leaving. Tom turned off his music, removed his headphones, stood up, walked over to the man's desk and said, "Hey, how's it going? Someone's coming to pick me up. Do you need an umbrella? I can lend you mine if you want." "Thank you so much. I'll return it to you tomorrow without fail." The man smiled, reached out, and took the umbrella Tom offered. He placed it under his desk, turned back to his screen, and kept working. Frustrated, Tom closed his eyes and returned to his seat. His patience was nearly gone. He felt he couldn't wait any longer. He stood up again and walked to the window. The rain had stopped. "It stopped raining," he said to the man still working. "Perfect. Then here's your umbrella back," the man replied, clicking a few times and shutting down his computer. He stood up, grabbed Tom's umbrella, walked over, and placed it on Tom's desk. Perfect. It worked, Tom thought, heading back to his desk to pick up the umbrella and thank the man. But something Tom hadn't anticipated began to happen. The man started introducing himself and talking about his life. "I'm Aaron. I'd seen you around before, but you know how it is. Everyone's so busy there's never time to socialize, except maybe in the elevator, the kitchen at lunch, or on the way out. I was living in New Hampshire, but I recently moved to Massachusetts. Boston's pretty great, don't you think? How long have you been working here?" No way, Tom thought. He's one of those who stays to chat at the end of the day. Just swallow me whole. "I've also been here 2 years, and yeah, you're right. The weather is what I like most." "The weather?" Aaron asked. Tom closed his eyes and pressed 4 fingers of his right hand to his forehead. "Sorry, I'm terrible at small talk. I was on autopilot. You know how people always talk about the weather when they don't know what else to say?" Aaron smiled and continued. "I get it. I used to be the same. Work left me so exhausted that I only talked to people on autopilot, like a pre-programmed robot or something. At least that's how it felt. But since I started meditating and focusing on living in the present, I get tired less and have more energy to socialize. Meditation really helped me improve my social skills. Do you like meditation? I know a place where every Friday the Department of..." And he kept talking. Tom had no idea how to shut him up without seeming rude or harsh. Fortunately, at that moment his phone buzzed and vibrated. He pulled it out while Aaron continued talking and saw it wasn't a message, just a stupid notification. For the first time in his life, Tom felt genuinely happy and lucky to receive a notification. Normally they just annoyed him, since their only purpose in the world seemed to be being turned off. "It's my wife," Tom said. "She's here to pick me up." "Oh good, and it stopped raining. Anyway, thanks for offering the umbrella. I'm heading out too. Computer's off. Want to wait and take the elevator together?" "Sure, no problem." Tom turned his back, closed his eyes again, frustrated and in a bad mood. This can't be happening to me. Like a turtle, or at least that's how it seemed to Tom. Aaron slowly packed some documents and an iPad into his briefcase. Tom watched him with an exasperated look until the man finally closed it. The moment Aaron turned toward him, Tom instantly switched to a friendly, pleasant expression. "Did you forget anything?" Aaron asked. "No, I've got the umbrella. Let's go, it's getting dark." They left the office together and reached the large corridor with 4 elevators. Tom used his proximity card to call one, and they waited. The elevator took forever. But by then Tom had swallowed all his frustration. He knew the end was near. Almost there, he told himself once more. When they reached the ground floor, Tom said goodbye to Aaron. Instead of leaving the building with him, he said, "See you tomorrow. I still need to use the bathroom." "See you tomorrow, then." Tom went into the bathroom and checked his watch. Just to be safe, he waited 2 extra minutes in case Aaron was still downstairs and wanted to keep talking. Cautiously, he peeked out of the bathroom like a cartoon character, making sure no one, especially Aaron, saw him head back up. He walked to the elevator, used his card again, stepped in quickly when the doors opened, and let out a long, deep sigh of relief. "Finally," he said aloud to himself. He pressed 34. When the doors opened again, he ran straight to the kitchen, grabbed a Red Bull he had stashed in the fridge earlier, sat at his computer, turned it on, put on his headphones, and began sipping his drink slowly while listening to music. Ah, what a delight, he thought. 40 minutes later, the anxiety returned. He weighed the can and realized it was almost empty again. Why does everything good have to end? He wondered. "It's time," he said out loud. Then he stood up and began acting out everything he had imagined that afternoon. He ran out and did a few laps around one of the waiting areas. Then he sprinted back to his seat, leaping high as he passed through the entrance door and touching the top of the frame with his right-hand fingers. He ran aimlessly through the corridors, turning at every corner, his gray jacket and red tie flapping wildly, before entering one of the elevators. He lay on the floor face up and flapped his arms like a bird soaring freely through the sky. He stood up, ran back to the office, jumping like a child. He didn't care about the security cameras, if they were even on. He climbed onto a desk and once again flapped his arms like a free bird. He got down, then began spinning and twirling in the air like a professional ballet dancer. Perfect. The Red Bull is kicking in, he thought, and he kept spinning and twirling. When he finished, he stood in the middle of a corridor. He timidly looked up at the air conditioning vents and gave a small bow. Then he gathered his things and left the office. After making sure Tom had left, a black furry creature used its long, terrifying claws to pry open the air conditioning vent cover. It dropped down onto a desk and began carefully and meticulously imitating every movement and step Tom had performed that night.